So today we're going to take a look at comets and the role that they may play in telling the end time story. We know from Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, that God created the sun, moon, and stars, not just for day and night, but also for signs and for seasons, that is the Moedim, the feasts of the Lord. So they're for signs and they're for seasons. So God's silent witness about what he is doing and his plan of redemption, his plan of salvation through Christ has been written in the stars. So back in 1999, a long time ago, I took a trip to Israel, and I remember being shocked to see this mosaic floor of an old synagogue that actually had signs of the zodiac on it. And I was appalled because, as a good Christian girl, I was taught that you don't have anything to do with the constellation, the signs of the zodiac, and so on, that it was all occult, that it was all for fortune telling and astrology and horoscopes. And I stayed far away from all of that. But what I realized later, that the constellations on the ecliptic plane were assigned to one of the 12 tribes of Israel. And, who knew? And so what I discovered was that Satan had stolen from believers the things that were meant for us. The signs in the heavens are meant for us. They're not for them. So all of that really came into play for me in 2017 with the Revelation 12 sign. Actually, 2 years before that, when the planet Jupiter was in Leo still and was in retrograde motion, I think it was around Regulus, the king's star, and then moved toward Virgo. And you can see all that from where we live. I mean, we're out in the country and we got big sky and it's dark. And so I watched as Jupiter moved into Virgo. So a lot of people say the sign of the woman was only something you could see on stellarium. Well, no, you could actually see the whole thing forming. Now, granted, the sun was in Virgo, meaning it's difficult to see the constellation of Virgo in the fall because the sun is right there. But that doesn't mean that we don't know what was happening. So the sign of the woman, the great sign of Revelation 12, 1 and 2 took place in 2017. So we have the regular constellations, and then we have what we call the wandering stars. Those are the planets that move through the ecliptic plane, and they're part of God's giant clock. Well, there are other starry things that are out there as well, other constellations, other phenomena, including meteors, asteroids, including comets. People have been very superstitious about comets over the centuries, and according to the Chinese, comets often heralded, let me see if I can get it off my show notes here, they call them vile stars. Every time they appear in the south, something happens to wipe out the old and establish the new. And I talk about this in my book Convergence, which is at its premise the idea that the starry signs that are associated with the occult and with Satan and with the flood and the Pleiades, all of this, these are signs that happen with a certain day every year, and that's Halloween, which is basically a worldwide ancient commemoration of the flood of Noah's day, and how the dates for the sign of the dragon basically converge with the biblical dates for the flood of Noah, which Noah was given a 7-day warning, then the flood came on the 8th day. So there's a lot of layered symbolism in this, and I hope you get a copy of my book because it's far more than I can explain in a video. And I've done videos on this in the past as well. So you can check out any video that looks like it says something about Halloween or fall 2025, anything like that. And you're going to find something about the sign of the dragon connected with the days of Noah, connected with Halloween, days of the dead, and so on. Let's get back to comets. Comets are fascinating, and historically, people have viewed them with dread. One of the interesting things about comets is some comets are kind of predictable. They come through periodically. They'll come through our solar system, and you can actually predict when they're going to be there. And then there are comets that just sort of show up out of the blue. And I'm going to talk about 3 of those today. Well, I'm going to talk about one in detail. I'm going to give you links to videos for the other 2. I think it was in 2016. There was a comet, and it carries the name Borisov, but it's not the interstellar comet Borisov. And this was a newly discovered comet. And I'm just going to read from the description box of this channel. World Breaker is the name of the YouTube channel. I think this is the only video he ever did, and it was about the Conception Comet. Okay, the Conception Comet, that was the name he gave to it because this comet appeared in Virgo 9 months before the Revelation 12 sign. A newly discovered comet within the Revelation 12 sign leading to the 23rd of September 2017. This comet leaves Virgo at her feet on the 23rd of December in 2016, exactly 9 months before Jupiter's birth. Coincidence? I think not. I call it the Conception Comet. Wonderful, interesting video. If you haven't seen it, I will leave the link, and I suggest you go over to World Breaker and watch this video on the Conception Comet. It only adds to the importance of the Revelation 12 sign, that its authenticity. This comet gives the confirmation that what we saw in 2017 is the real deal. It was the fulfillment of the Revelation 12 sign. I would like to draw your attention to another channel. This is called Biblical Blackboard, and this is a gentleman that I've been in contact with for a while now, and he became fascinated with Comet C 2023 P1 Nishimura, and he has a detailed, I mean, we're talking extremely detailed timeline, and his timeline of this particular comet is absolutely fascinating. This comet came in at certain dates, touched on places, constellations, stars in the sky that almost perfectly, and it's really amazing, perfectly match my timeline. If you're interested, I would suggest you go over there. The third comet is the one that we're all talking about right now, which is the 3I Atlas, the interstellar comet, the third one that's been in our solar system. And I think that this comet actually is part of the sign of the dragon. And I want to read you 2 comments that I got on my channel. Brother Mark says this, I don't know, it's pretty cool to me at least. In the sign of the woman, the moon was under her feet on September 23rd, 2017. And 3I Atlas arrives at that same location on 9/23/25, which that's fascinating. Revelation 12:4, the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. Then it passes between her legs and enters the womb just as Venus flies by. 3I Atlas and Venus are the closest to each other at the exit of the womb on the evening of Halloween, October 31st, 2025. Okay, so this is a replay. This is like a pattern here. We're all the way back to September 23rd again. Okay, 8 years from 2017, and now, instead of Jupiter being in the womb, it's Venus that's in the womb. And now we see the comet that is going counter to how the planets travel on the ecliptic plane. It's going the other direction, and it's meeting Venus in Virgo on October 31st, 2025. Now, Venus is the bright morning star in the starry heavens. And he quotes Revelation 2:26, the one who conquers and who keeps my works until the end, to him I will give authority over the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron, and I'll give him the morning star. Then he goes on to say, I think she gave birth to Jupiter in the sign of the woman, and Virgo, that is this constellation, gives birth to Venus, that would be us, in the sign of the dragon. And this is what I've said, is that if 2025 is our year to be raptured, that our rapture would happen sometime after Halloween. Okay, it would be Halloween evening, November 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, probably at the latest. And then that would be our change, and then our rapture would happen on the 8th day after we've been changed. So here's the second comment that was made on my channel from Sister Christina. Shalom, Sister Brenda. I forgot to mention one other piece of information. The Revelation 12 sign of the woman, which is Virgo, pregnant with the child, Jupiter, in 2017. That was the planet Jupiter that was in retrograde motion inside of Virgo for over 9 months. Clothed with the sun, with the moon at her feet, and 12 stars crowning her head, appeared on September 23rd, 2017. But the next sign of the dragon we are looking for to appear in the sky. 3-eye Atlas comet is approaching. Multiple observatory telescopes have viewed it as a reddish color. So that's interesting, although I hear that the color may be changing a little bit, but it's very interesting. Along its trajectory, it will be at Virgo's feet on September 23rd, 2025, and then between October 23rd and November 2nd, 2025, at Virgo's pelvic or abdominal area, as if standing in front of the woman giving birth. Between October 23rd and November 2nd, Virgo will appear to be pregnant with the planet Venus. 3-eye Atlas flies by the sun on October 29th, 2025. Then it flies by Venus on November 2nd, then the Earth on December 18th. When it will be passing the constellation of Leo, and finally fly by Jupiter on March 25th, 2026. And what's interesting is on my timeline for 2026, March 25th actually begins the 10 days of tribulation for believers that is spoken of in the letter to the church of Smyrna in Revelation chapter 2. 3-eye Atlas will make its way through 7 constellations: Sagittarius, Scorpius, Libra, Virgo, Leo, Cancer, and Gemini. Could this be the 7 crowns on the 7 heads, as the constellations' crowns are months or heads? Interesting thought. I don't know, could be. Could the 10 horns be referring to rays of light, such as the moon, Antares, Mercury, Mars, Sun, Venus, Spica, Regulus, Jupiter, and Pollux, along the trajectory through the 7 constellations? As it's moving through the constellations, it goes through these stars. And could this be the next Revelation 12 sign to appear, sign of the dragon? If it is, the rapture is very, very near. Hallelujah. All right, so there we are. We have some comets that just appeared. Comets sort of signal a huge change in what's happening in the world. And in this case, we have 3 very interesting comets. The Conception Comet that appeared in the constellation of Virgo in December of 2016. And then we have the Comet Nishimura that actually lays out the whole Revelation timeline. And then we have Comet 3-eye Atlas that seems to be playing out the rest of the story of the sign of the dragon in 2025. Now, the thing is, the sign of the dragon is the sign, and it's the story of how the male child is caught up to God and to his throne. And if we are the male child who's going to rule and reign with Christ, and we're now viewed as the 24 elders present in heaven before any seals are opened or any trumpets are blown, if we see the sign of the dragon and all the events associated with that sign, then we can be pretty sure that our rapture is very near. It's not over the Feast of Trumpets, though. If it is, praise God, but I don't think so. And I do believe that we are going to be told or notified in advance that this is about to happen. I think we're going to be given actually a 40-day warning, beginning with the Feast of Trumpets, and then there's 40 days between the Feast of Trumpets and November 1st. So I want to bring up two other things here that actually are news items, and they're basically the same news item. The first is that European leaders are pushing for World War III to commence with Russia by March of 2026. And then France is ordering hospitals to prepare for a warlike situation by 2026. And then it's a question mark, NATO versus Russia. Well, in my timeline, if we're raptured this fall, there is going to be a nuclear exchange around April 9th and 10th. This is the 7th day of Passover. This is when the reign of the beast begins. It's the same day as that hour of trial, that hour, day, month, and year of the sixth trumpet. And remember, all time in Revelation is literal. So the hour of trial is not figurative. There is a literal hour of trial. And that is going to be the hour that Mystery Babylon faces her first judgment, and a third of mankind is killed. All of this makes sense to me if the big nuclear exchange that's going to be happening that actually takes out NATO or the Western countries, because we're not a part of the end time story. It's kings of the East, it's Israel. The West is not a part of this. So it will be the destruction of the Western world, particularly NATO, the United States, anybody who is allied with the old program, which is what we are. we're the old empire. It's going down, and the kings of the East are on the ascendancy. And we know that's going to happen scripturally. So I just want you to look at these calculations here. And I do use the Hebrew feast dates. They actually help us to be able to create this timeline. And the way I started calculating this timeline was sort of figuring out what feast day would be the most likely feast for Jesus to return at his glorious second coming, and the Day of Atonement seemed like the right day for that. If Christ returns on Tishri 10, September 20th of 2029, then if you subtract 1,260 days, you're going to get April 9th, 10th, and again, this is all plus or minus 24 hours, because we're talking time zones, and we're talking, does the day begin in the evening? Does it begin in the morning or midnight? And so actually calculating a specific day, we can't do that. So it's plus or minus 24 hours. The other thing we know about that day of the abomination of desolation is that it's going to be light. It says at night there will still be light. So it's a very mysterious day. It's kind of a long day, and that is the day that the remnant of Israel is going to flee into the wilderness. That's the day that Christ is going to come and usher them into the place where they'll be kept safe. The thing about my timeline is that the order of events never changes. We're watching for certain things to happen, and if we go past, say, 2025 for the rapture, then next year we just use the same Hebrew dates, only insert the correct Gregorian date. The Gregorian date may change, but the Hebrew date never changes. It's always the same. So we're just watching for the sign of the dragon. That's the next sign. And we're looking for events that are going to be leading up to the sign of the dragon. So we're seeing a lot on the world stage as far as Israel making herself rather odious so that she is not going to have the support that she's looking for when the time comes, in the next few weeks. I think the whole world, at least the important players, the people that matter, people with militaries and people who have an interest in watching what goes on in the Middle East, I think what will happen is Israel will be left all alone. And this is when all the players for all the end time wars, I think, will converge all at once. It's going to be everybody who has anything against Israel will take that opportunity to come against her. and she will be very, very overwhelmed. And God is going to come to Israel's rescue, but it's a temporary situation, because at the time of the abomination of desolation, the Bible tells us that 2/3 of Israel will be cut off. And we know that at the time of the earthquake, when the Mount of Olives splits in two and the two witnesses ascend, Jesus comes down and his feet touch the Mount of Olives, creating that earthquake, that 1/10 of the city falls and 7,000 people are killed on that day. That's when the remnant of Israel is going to flee into the wilderness, and that's really when all hell breaks loose in Israel. And that is when the beast begins to reign. Satan will have already come to the earth with his angels. Well, he'll have been cast out. The reprieve that Israel will have is only about 5 months. I'll leave you links to the videos, and I'll leave you some show notes so you can read the stuff for yourself and research these things, and leave a comment. I enjoy reading your comments. I learn so much from them. Thank you for sharing. I hope you'll share this video with other people, and I hope you'll give it a like, and we'll see you on another video. Till then, have a blessed day.